77% of students said they experienced unequal workload, while 69% said they experienced teammates missing meetings, and 65% reported scheduling difficulties. And half reported poor communication skills and unequal roles and contribution.
Our solution was to create a group contract toolkit, a structured, easy-to-use resource that student teams can complete at the start of any group project to set themselves up for success. The toolkit directly targets the problem our survey identified. It includes 4 components. First, a role assignment sheet, so that every team member has a clear responsibility from day one. This was the most requested tool in our survey, with 65% of students saying they'd use it. Second, a meeting norms agreement, covering meeting frequency, communication platforms, response times, and attendance expectations. 50% of students said they'd use a meeting scheduling template. Third, a conflict resolution protocol, a step-by-step process for handling disagreements before they escalate, moving from direct discussion to group mediation to instructor escalation if needed. And fourth, a progress tracker, so teams can monitor task completion, identify blockers early, and hold each other accountable. Again, 50% of students said they'd use a progress tracking tool.
So, to implement this, we took survey research, which you can see here. We conducted this by sending it out to 26 people from Concordia University. The surveys included multiple questions. It included a comprehensive background and also some open-ended questions to see the feedback that we could get from different students that have worked in teams before. Now, okay, our next part was the toolkit distribution. We did this through sending out emails, sending out text messages to friends and other people who we knew. The same were often found on the respondents of these surveys. Here's some feedback that we heard from that after using the toolkit.
But with the group contract, I think you might be able to avoid that issue. And by signing it, you guys can, delegate roles and figure out when you're going to be meeting. So, because no one wants to be grading their teammates harshly, but at the end of the day, it happens.
With this follow-up feedback that we got from the people who used the toolkit and the student use, we then modified it and made the final toolkit that we will be showing off today.
Toolkit actually make a difference. From the feedback we gathered, students who used the toolkit reported feeling more organized and more confident that their group was on the same page from the start. The role assignment sheet in particular helped reduce uncertainty about who is responsible for what, and the meeting norms gave group a shared framework for staying in contact. The toolkit won't eliminate every challenge of group work. Scheduling conflict, different motivation levels, and personality differences will always exist. But what it does is give the team a foundation. Instead of starting from nothing, groups start with shared expectations, defined roles, and a plan for when things go wrong. When we look back at our original survey data, where 77% of students experienced unequal workload and 77% found dysfunctional projects very stressful, it's clear that the status quo isn't working. The group contract toolkit is a simple, low cost that addresses the root causes students themselves identified. Lack of accountability, unclear rules, and missing strategies at the start.
Throughout the course of our group project, as a team, we need to properly implement and use teamwork, proper decision-making, conflict resolution, and leadership, to not only complete our project on time, but to come together as a collective and cohesive unit. We foster teamwork by applying the 5 characteristics of high-performing teams. First of all, as a team of 5, it was easier to coordinate tasks among the groups, it was easier to assume more responsibility, and made each team member feel more involved in internal dynamics with things such as scheduling, team meetings, decision-making, and actually creating the toolkit. Furthermore, as a collective, we possess several complementary skills and competencies that make things like collaborative problem solving, communication, goal setting, and performance management so much easier. For example, our more tech-savvy members were able to organize different scheduling tools that coordinated all of our schedules in one to know when we were all available. Stronger speakers conducted things like interviews, and others were more behind the scenes doing research, creating surveys, and implementing our toolkit.
We set both outcome and activity-based goals, such as achieving a strong final grade and meeting deadlines by completing work 2 days before it's due. We established team norms such as cooperation, creating a safe environment in which all team members could share their ideas. Finally, we established mutual accountability by defining roles, tasks, and deadlines for each member through a social contract before the project began, thereby avoiding threats such as innocent bystander behavior and self-limiting behavior. Leadership was shared equally throughout the group, with each member serving as a leader by setting up meetings, discussing tasks, or reminding team members of upcoming events. Our leadership style mirrored that of a servant leader, as we put our team members' needs first. We provided an appropriate model by establishing appropriate behavior, clear expectations, and treating others as we would want to be treated. Furthermore, we fostered acceptance of group goals by promoting cooperation among members, encouraging them to work together both in person, after class, and on weekends, and at Zoom meetings.
Appropriate decision-making amongst group members was done by using the paddle process. A primary example of this implementation was picking the project in itself. We first identified a problem, and it was that Concordia students, especially at this university, are experiencing extreme stress when it comes to group project. We then found different alternatives, one being the toolkit, others being different social contracts, and even different types of peer evaluations that maybe a teacher could implement. We then made the decision of choosing the toolkit that we felt would best solve the issues present at this university. We implemented it through different types of surveys and interviews, and we received feedback once again from those and ultimately learned from it. Other decisions, typically smaller decisions, were made democratically, whether it was decided of what we were going to do, where we were going to do it. Although conflict within the group did not arise very often, when it did, we used the 5 conflict handling styles in order to reach a solution. The styles we used the most often were compromising and integrated. For example, we used the integrating style when conflict arose out of class meetings, which were scheduled on days when some members could not attend.
We would handle these types of conflicts by holding open discussions and finding mutual beneficial outcomes, such as holding meetings on Zooms for the commuters. Furthermore, conflict arose over content, primarily regarding which interview clips we would use in the videos, as each interviewer was typically biased to include their own clips. So agreements were typically reached by compromising and using both clips just at different points in the video.
When we implemented the group contract toolkit, we knew that simply creating a solution wasn't enough. We had to actively engage students and get them to actually use it. To do this, we relied heavily on teamwork and shared leadership within our group. Instead of having one person lead everything, we distributed responsibilities based on strengths. Some of us focused on outreach, others interviews, and others refining the toolkit itself. This reflects the shared leadership approach discussed in Baldwin, ETL.
We also adapted based on feedback, for example, simplifying parts of our toolkit and emphasizing flexibility, which helped reduce resistance. Overall, by combining shared leadership, engagement, and clear communication, we were able to successfully involve students and implement our solution in a way that felt collaborative rather than imposed.